Every year, the calendar flips. New month, new promises, new resolutions. But for most people, same patterns, same fears, same results. Because here's the brutal truth. If you don't upgrade your thinking, you will relive the same year with a different number at the top. 365 days on repeat. New clothes, same mindset. New goals, same excuses. New planner, same lack of clarity. The future does not change with time. It changes with transformation. And transformation starts in the mind. You do not rise above the level of your thinking. You don't get what you want. You get what your thinking is designed to create. Your thoughts are not passive, they are productive. Every belief is a blueprint. Every doubt is a delay. Every mental ceiling you refuse to break becomes a lifetime of limitation. And the most dangerous part, you won't even notice it, because the mind is a master of justification. It will protect your comfort before it protects your calling. It'll say, you're doing enough. You're just tired. You'll start next week. But you know better. You know that last year didn't break you. It revealed you. It showed you the results of the thoughts you kept thinking, the routines you kept repeating, the stories you kept telling yourself that sounded like truth, but were really just well-rehearsed excuses. And if you want more, if you want next-level results, you don't just need better habits. You need a better operating system, because success is not a matter of luck. It's a matter of mental architecture. It is built by people who decided, I will not carry outdated thinking into a new chapter of my life. So how do you start? You start by taking full ownership of your thoughts. You stop blaming circumstance. You stop outsourcing responsibility. You stop making excuses dressed up as logic. You decide erratically that nothing changes outside of you until something changes within you. And that change begins with mindset. Mindset is not a buzzword. It's your internal compass. It's what filters your decisions. It's what interprets failure. It's what defines possibility. And most people, they never audit it. They live on thought patterns inherited from people who settled. They operate on software written by fear. They act on beliefs they never chose but still obey. Not you. Not anymore. You begin to question every thought that doesn't empower you. You interrogate every limitation, like a lie. You demand that your inner dialogue sound like someone who respects their future, because that's where transformation begins. When the voice in your head stops sounding like your excuses and starts sounding like your vision, from that mindset comes belief, not motivational belief, not surface level hype, but belief built on evidence. The evidence of your past wins. The evidence of your resilience. The evidence that says, I've been through worse. I've survived it all, and I'm not done yet. Because belief is not emotion. It is discipline. It is the commitment to see yourself as capable, even when the results haven't caught up yet. It is the quiet declaration. I am not waiting to believe in myself until I win. I believe now so I can win. And belief sharpens clarity. Because once you believe you're worthy of more, you stop settling for confusion. You stop living reactively. You stop spending your life responding to everyone else's plans. You get clear. Clear on what you value. Clear on what you tolerate. Clear on what no longer has access to your energy. Because unclear people stay stuck, not from lack of desire, but from lack of direction. But when you're clear, your decisions become decisive. Your vision becomes magnetic. Your actions become undeniable. And that clarity fuels purpose. Because purpose isn't found. It's declared. It's chosen. It's built by people who stop asking for meaning and start creating it. Purpose says, I will not drift. I will not waste this year repeating the last one. I will not die with the same ideas still stuck in my head. And when you combine that purpose with discipline, you become unstoppable. Because discipline is what turns purpose into proof. It's what separates the inspired from the impactful. It's the line between potential and performance. Everyone gets excited on January honest. But who's still building with intensity on day 137? Who's still moving when the hype dies? When the weather shifts? When no one's watching? That's who wins. Because discipline is not punishment. It's precision. It's the art of saying yes to your future and no to anything that pulls you away from it. Discipline says, I will not wait for motivation. I will move with conviction. I will not be loyal to my feelings. I will be loyal to my mission. I don't need perfect conditions. I just need to show up. And when you do that, something wild begins to happen. You enter the realm of momentum. Small wins stack. Small habits compound. And your life stops being a loop and becomes a launch pad. And from that launch pad comes action. Not scattered action. Not panicked action. Aligned action. Action that is not reactive, but relentless. Not impulsive, but intentional. You no longer ask, is this hard? You ask, is this aligned? You no longer say, what if it fails? You say, what if I never try? Because now, you're not moving to impress anyone. You're moving because you're done being stuck. You're moving because clarity has consequences. And when you're clear on who you are, you can't go back to being confused. You're no longer available for distractions. You're no longer entertained by chaos. You're no longer seduced by average. You are moving with energy, with intention, with gratitude. Because gratitude is the mindset of momentum. Gratitude keeps you grounded. It reminds you that progress is a privilege, that every small step forward is a victory, that even the struggle is evidence of growth. You don't wait for the finish line to celebrate. You celebrate the discipline to keep going, because if you can love the process, you will never lose to the person obsessed with outcomes. Gratitude transforms your pressure into perspective. It says, I'm not behind. I'm being built. I'm not late. I'm learning. I'm not stuck. I'm being sharpened. And that mindset makes you adaptable, because life will test your plan, but it cannot break your purpose. You don't pivot because you're lost. You pivot because you're wise. You know how to change direction without changing destination. You know how to shift gears without losing grip. You know how to embrace the unexpected without abandoning your expectations. That's how resilience is born, not by avoiding storms, but by growing through them. Resilience is the refusal to repeat the same year again, just because the world handed you another setback. It's the refusal to call last year failure, when it was actually foundation. It's the fire in your chest that says, I will not go quiet. I will not fade. I will not waste another day waiting to become. Because the future does not belong to those who had the best year last year. It belongs to those who refuse to let last year be the final word. And those who grow, they learn. Because learning is the ultimate advantage. It's the secret weapon of every person who refused to live the same year twice. Because when you learn, you grow. And when you grow, you graduate from your past. You stop being who you were and start becoming who you were meant to be. You stop being ruled by what didn't work. You start being fueled by what you understand now. Because nothing is wasted when your mind is awake. Every failure becomes feedback. Every delay becomes depth. Every setback becomes a seminar. You learn from your reactions. You learn from your resistance. You learn from your results, especially the ones you didn't like. You ask, what did this teach me? Instead of, why did this happen to me? Because victims ask why. Leaders ask how. How do I grow from this? How do I build from here? How do I use what happened to construct a life that transcends what happened. And when you do that, when you learn, apply, upgrade, repeat, you become unrecognizable to the version of you who settled. You no longer fit in the box that comfort built for you. You no longer entertain the mindset that got you stuck. You no longer water down your vision just to be liked by people who don't live with intention, because you've upgraded your thinking. And now you've upgraded your life. You see with clarity. You move with certainty. You speak with power. You walk through rooms with energy that announces itself without a word, because the mind that once limited you now leads you. And people will ask what changed. They'll ask how you transformed so fast, how you broke out of the loop, how you escaped the cycle that most spend decades trapped inside. And you'll tell them, I stopped carrying last year's thoughts into this year's opportunity. I stopped rehearsing doubt and started programming destiny. I stopped thinking like the old me and started building the new one. Because in the end, it was never about the calendar. It was about the code in your mind. It was about the story you told yourself. It was about the system you lived by. And now, you don't repeat years. You rewrite them. You don't relive your past. You repurpose it. You don't recycle old goals. You reprogram your identity. And from this moment forward, you live like someone who will never, never let another year be wasted by outdated thinking. Because your time is too short. Your calling is too real. And your potential is too powerful to be stuck on repeat. So now you know. If you want to change your life, don't start with the calendar. Start with your thinking. Upgrade it or repeat it. The choice is yours. Now choose wisely. Now build wisely. Now lead your year like your destiny depends on it. Because it does. And you are ready. You are aware. You are activated. Now go prove it. Not by what you say, but by what you think. Every day, every hour, every decision. Because the difference between another year lost and the best year of your life is the quality of your thinking. Upgrade it or repeat it. Choose upgrade. Because when you choose to upgrade, you're not just changing your year. You're changing your standard. You're raising the bar on how you show up. You're refusing to shrink into patterns that no longer serve you. You're declaring without apology that your past is not your prison. It's your platform, and you build from it with clarity, with power, with conviction, because the world doesn't need another person who almost started, who almost believed, who almost changed. The world needs you, fully engaged, fully awake, fully aware of the difference one aligned mind can make. And now you are that mind. You are the new thought. You are the new pattern. You are the new standard. You've stopped running loops and started running legacy. You've stopped waking up to survive and started waking up to succeed. You've stopped being loyal to limitation and started living like someone who respects their responsibility. Responsibility to your growth. Responsibility to your calling. Responsibility to show the world what happens when someone upgrades their mind and refuses to go back. So burn the old narrative. Bury the loop. Break the cycle. This is not a reset. This is a rebuild. And the foundation is this. You are not your past. You are not your delay. You are not your excuses. You are the one who decided finally to write a new mental code, to stop waiting, to stop wishing, to stop blaming. You became the thinker of new thoughts. You became the mover of new actions. You became the author of a new chapter. And from here forward, that's who you are. Not someone starting over, but someone starting right. Not someone hoping, but someone building. Not someone circling another empty year, but someone creating a life they'll never need to escape from. And that is what it means to upgrade. Not just your goals, not just your habits, but your mind. Because when your thinking levels up, everything follows. Your energy, your focus, your finances, your relationships, your results. So this is your invitation, your challenge, your moment. Upgrade your thinking or repeat the same year again. You choose. You lead. You build it. Now, go and never think the same way again. If you want to change your life, don't ask what you can get. Ask what you can give, because the law is simple, unchanging, undeniable. Value first, compensation second. Always. Not sometimes. Not when it's convenient. Not when someone's watching. Always. This is the fundamental truth every successful person eventually discovers and every unsuccessful person continues to ignore. The world pays in direct proportion to the value you create, not the effort you complain about. You are not paid for hours. You are not paid for intentions. You are paid for outcomes. Outcomes rooted in service, in usefulness, in delivered excellence. So if you want to raise your income, raise your value. If you want more compensation, create more contribution. Because no one gets rich asking, how can I get paid? They get rich asking, how can I serve better, faster, deeper, smarter? They don't say, I need more. They say, let me be more, and the increase will follow. This is the philosophy of powerful people, of builders, of creators, of leaders, of legends. They understand this truth. You don't chase rewards. You attract them by becoming valuable beyond question. You don't negotiate for worth. You demonstrate it. You don't ask the world to give. You become a giver so rare that the world can't help but respond. But this mindset is rare because it's hard. It requires maturity. It requires vision. It requires patience. It requires the discipline to do the work before the applause. And that's where most people break. They want the check before the value, the lifestyle before the mastery, the recognition before the results. But the laws of the universe don't bend to ego. They reward contribution. So I'm going to ask you right now, and don't answer with your mouth. Answer with your calendar. Answer with your energy. Answer with your habits. Are you creating value first? Or are you still sitting in the waiting room of life, hoping someone pays you for potential? Because potential is cheap. Everyone has it. The ones who get paid, they turn that potential into actual value. Value that solves problems, inspires change, makes people's lives better. That's it. Simple, brutal, fair. And let me tell you something else. Value multiplies. It's not linear. It's exponential. One day you're grinding in silence, doing the extra work, improving the process, exceeding expectations, and no one's noticing. Then suddenly, everyone's noticing. Why? Because value compounds in the shadows until it explodes into the light. That's the game, but only for those who understand the rules. Serve first. Solve first. Give first. Create first. Lead first. Let the money come later, because it will come not to the impatient, but to the indispensable. Be the person who makes themselves essential. Be the person no one wants to work without. Be the person who walks in and raises the temperature of the room, not with ego, but with impact. And you do that by asking every single day, how can I create so much value that people feel like they're underpaying me even when I haven't been paid yet? That's the fire. That's the code. That's the identity you step into when you stop waiting to get paid and start showing up as if you're already worthy of tanks the check. Because the truth is, the marketplace doesn't reward the needy. It rewards the necessary, the ones who solve it better, faster, cleaner, more consistently. Those are the people the world writes checks to. So if you're still waiting, it's time to stop asking what you're owed and start over-delivering like you've already been paid. Because when you live like that, when value becomes your first language, compensation becomes your second nature. That's how empires are built. That's how names are remembered. That's how real wealth is earned. And when you finally lock in that philosophy, value first, always something begins to shift in you. You stop walking into rooms asking, what can I get from this? You start asking, what can I bring to this that no one else can? And the moment you start thinking that way, you level up your life because you are no longer operating as a consumer. You've become a creator. You don't sit around waiting for someone to feed you. You become the fire that feeds the room. That shift from passive to powerful, from extraction to contribution, that's when you separate from the crowd. And when you separate, you elevate. And when you elevate, you dominate. Because you're not focused on the crumbs. You're building the bakery. You're not obsessed with being seen. You're obsessed with becoming so valuable that being overlooked is no longer even possible. Let me tell you something. If people aren't noticing your value yet, you don't need more promotion. You need more precision, more focus, more consistency, more value. Because when the value is clear, the compensation shows up. Sometimes it shows up as opportunity. Sometimes it shows up as partnerships. Sometimes it shows up as money. Sometimes it shows up as doors flying open that once slammed shut in your face. But it will show up. It has to. That's how the universe works. That's how the marketplace responds. It's not emotional. It's not personal. It's principled. And the principle is this: he who creates the most value wins. Not eventually. Immediately. Because people are starving for solutions, drowning in complexity, desperate for clarity, confidence, trust. So what do? You become the personification of those things. You become the solution, the clarity, the trust. You stop trying to convince people. You become the evidence. You show up with so much precision and excellence that people feel undercharged, not because you lowered your price, but because you raised your performance. That's what professionals do. That's what leaders do. That's what valuable people do. They don't ask, is this worth my time? They ask, is this worthy of my excellence? And when they decide it, they don't hold back. They go all in. They over-deliver. They outserve. They outwork. They outcare. And because they give like that, they receive without guilt. Because they know, I earned this. Not because I demanded it, but because I became someone it couldn't ignore. So if you're still hoping for the raise, still hoping for the break, still hoping someone finds you, sees you, chooses you, stop hoping. Start helping. Start serving. Start solving problems no one else is willing to solve. Start refining your craft so relentlessly that people feel like hiring you is the greatest decision they've ever made. You want to stand out? Don't do what's required. Do what's rare. Exceed expectations. Respond with excellence. Anticipate needs before they're spoken. Be the kind of person people brag about working with, not because you're flashy, but because your value is felt in every detail. That's when compensation becomes a formality. That's when you stop asking to be paid and start getting pursued. That's when your work becomes undeniable, because you became undeniable. And once that happens, game over. You've escaped the average. You've left the crowd. You've elevated yourself into a category so few ever reach. In demand, irreplaceable, invaluable. And when you become invaluable, when your presence is not just appreciated but essential, everything changes. People don't ask, what's your rate? They ask, when can we start? They don't negotiate with you, they align with you. Because the value is obvious. It's in the tone of your voice. It's in the precision of your work. It's in the way you make things better, just by being involved. You don't chase clients. Clients chase you. You don't chase approval. Your execution earns respect. Because when value is your foundation, you become the asset, not the employee, not the freelancer, not the option, the asset. And assets don't beg. Assets are protected, multiplied, respected. But you can't fake this. You can't shortcut it. You can't just want it. You have to become it. You have to live in a way that says, before I ask to be rewarded, I'll prove I can be relied on. That's how value moves. And value doesn't shout. It doesn't brag. It doesn't demand attention. It commands it with consistency, with character, with craftsmanship. And let me be clear, this isn't about being perfect. It's about being principled. Because even in failure, even in your off days, people can still trust you. They can trust your effort, your response, your integrity. Because value isn't just about skill, it's about how you show up when it's hard, when no one is clapping, when the results are slow, when the doubt is high and the reward is low. That's when value is forged. That's when compensation is earned, not just in currency, but in character. Because make no mistake, people are always watching, even when you think they're not. They're watching how you treat the small jobs. They're watching how you handle disappointment. They're watching how you respond when the lights aren't on you. And what they're watching for is consistency. Because consistency is the proof of value, not intensity, not inspiration, not a one-time wow moment, but a pattern of excellence that stacks brick by brick until you've built something that pays you for decades. So don't just be good once. Be good every time. Every meeting, every message, every email, every handshake, every result. Let it drip with intentionality. Let it reflect someone who doesn't do average work under any circumstances. And when people ask how you built this kind of value, how you became so trusted, so respected, so compensated, you tell them the truth. I made a decision that no matter what, I would lead with value. Before I got the job, before I got the credit, before I got the money, I chose to show up as if I had already earned it. And then I did. This is the code. This is the edge. This is the mindset that moves you from invisible to unignorable. So the next time you feel tempted to ask, when will they notice me? When will I finally be paid what I'm worth? When will it be my time? Answer it yourself, with your value. Answer with your effort. Answer with your excellence. Answer with your execution. Because when you lead with value, you stop needing to ask. You start becoming the answer. Because this is where everything converges. This is the climactic truth. You don't get paid what you want. You get paid what you are. And the world sees what you truly are through one lens. The value you consistently deliver, not the value you intend, not the potential you talk about, not the ambition you wear on your sleeve, but the impact you create over time without needing a spotlight. So let me ask you, are you the kind of person who leaves people better off every time you touch something? Every conversation, every project, every interaction, does your presence elevate the room? Because that's value. That's how you build a reputation that outlives introductions. You want to get rich? Become the person who can't be left out of the room. Not because of status, but because of significance. Be the one who brings certainty in chaos. Be the one who finds solutions before there's a problem. Be the one who doesn't need to be told because they already saw it coming. That's when you no longer ask, how do I get paid more? Because you know the truth. The more I give, the more I grow. The more I grow, the more I earn. The more I earn, the more I can give again. It's a flywheel, a beautiful, unstoppable cycle. But it only spins for those who begin by putting value first. So here's what I want you to remember, burned into your bones. Never show up with your hand out. Show up with your sleeves rolled up. Don't walk in saying, what's in it for me? Walk in saying, let me show you what's possible because I'm here. Don't calculate your worth by hours. Calculate it by outcomes. Don't beg for a raise. Raise the standard of everything you touch and watch the world raise its offer to keep up with your momentum. Because here's the final, immutable truth. Value is magnetic. Value is timeless. Value is your passport to every room you've ever wanted to enter. It doesn't need a resume. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't need explanation. It walks in first and speaks for you before your mouth opens. So, from now on, let this be your code. Lead with value before they ask, before they pay, before they see you, before they understand you. Lead with value, not for applause, but for alignment with who you've chosen to be. Lead with value, and the compensation, the opportunity, the freedom, the wealth, it will follow like a shadow you don't need to chase. Because the person who puts value first, that person is always paid last, but paid the most. Wealth isn't a mystery. It's not a trick. It's not reserved for the lucky or the chosen. Wealth is a consequence, a result, a reflection of how clearly you see the world and your place in it. Because make no mistake, wealth is earned in clarity and lost in confusion. Clarity is the seed. Confusion is the thief. Clarity turns ideas into empires. Confusion turns ambition into ashes. Clarity builds momentum. Confusion multiplies hesitation. And in the marketplace, the one with the clearest vision wins. Always. Look around. The people building real wealth, the kind that lasts beyond fads and bubbles, they are not just smarter, they are sharper. They see what others can't. They act while others wait. They understand one truth most never realize. You are paid in direct proportion to the problems you solve and the clarity with which you solve them. Let that sink in. It's not effort. It's not hours. It's not education. It's clarity. Clarity of purpose. Clarity of value. Clarity of execution. And confusion, that's the currency of poverty. It breeds indecision. It kills time. It clouds judgment. It makes people doubt what they know. And in doubt, nothing grows. You want wealth? Then sharpen the blade of your mind. Because wealth doesn't come to those who want it. It comes to those who are clear about why they must have it, how they will build it, and what they will trade for it. Wealth doesn't come to wishers. It comes to workers with a plan. So what is clarity? Clarity is when your values match your vision and your vision is aligned with action. It's when you stop chasing everything and start building one thing with relentless focus. It's when you know who you are, what you offer, who you serve, and why it matters. Without that, you drift. You hop from job to job, strategy to strategy, idea to idea, relationship to relationship. You become a leaf in the wind, always moving, never arriving. But with clarity, you move like a bullet. You speak with purpose. You build with certainty, and people feel it. Because clarity is magnetic. It's rare. And anything rare is valuable. People pay for certainty. They invest in those who know. And the person who walks into a room with clarity commands more than attention, they command opportunity. So let me ask you, are you clear? Are you clear about what you're building? Are you clear about the value you bring? Are you clear about the life you want? Or are you borrowing someone else's dream because it looked shiny? Because wealth only shows up for people who know what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what they're willing to endure to earn it. You see, there's a reason why most people never get rich. It's not because they aren't capable. It's because they never got clear. They spent years working hard on the wrong thing. They were disciplined in the wrong direction. They were consistent with something that never moved the needle because they never paused long enough to ask the most dangerous question a human being can ask. What do I really want? Not what your parents wanted, not what school taught, not what social media sold you. What you want. That question, if asked honestly, can change your life. But it's terrifying because once you answer it, you can't hide anymore. You have to get serious. You have to stop drifting. You have to cut the noise, leave the crowd, and build something real. That's clarity. And clarity demands sacrifice. You can't have clarity and comfort. You can't have clarity and convenience. Because once you're clear, everything that doesn't align becomes dead weight. Your old habits, your old friends, your old excuses, they all start to suffocate you. Because clarity isn't just knowing where you're going, it's knowing what you must leave behind. And that's the part people don't tell you. Clarity is expensive. But confusion is bankrupting your future. Confusion costs you time, the most expensive asset you own. Confusion costs you energy, the fuel of your ambition. Confusion costs you credibility because when you're not clear, people stop trusting you. Confusion costs you your calling. So how do you escape it? You decide. You stop waiting for certainty. You stop outsourcing your direction. You stop asking everyone what to do and start asking yourself what you already know to be true. Because deep down, you know what you were made to do. You've always known. It's just been buried beneath noise, fear, guilt, distraction, and comparison. But clarity lives underneath all of that like a diamond under dirt. And it doesn't come from outside. It comes from stillness, from listening, from asking better questions, from writing it down, from staring at a blank wall until your soul finally says, enough. This is what I'm here for. And once that voice rises, don't you dare ignore it. That voice is your compass. That voice is your future wealth, whispering through the fog. That voice is clarity, and it is worth more than gold. Because once you have clarity, you become dangerous, focused, driven, unshakable, and everything around you begins to respond. People hear it in your tone. They feel it in your posture. They sense it in your energy. Because when you're clear, you don't have to convince. You embody. You attract. You execute. You move differently. And the market rewards you for it with attention, with resources, with results. This is the truth most motivational fluff ignores. You don't get paid for activity. You get paid for clarity-driven action. 100 confused hours won't outwork 10 hours of precise execution. The guy who knows exactly what problem he solves will always out-earn the one who's still figuring it out. So the question is not, am I working hard enough? The question is, am I working on the right thing, with the right strategy, at the right level of clarity? Because wealth is not hiding from you. It's waiting for you to get clear enough to claim it. Because once you get clear, really clear, you stop chasing opportunity. And opportunity starts chasing you. You stop knocking on every door. And you start building the house people want to walk into. You stop hustling for scraps. And you start creating systems that multiply value, not just moments of survival. This is when wealth starts to flow. Not all at once, not overnight, but predictably, quietly, with growing force. Because clarity breeds consistency, and consistency compounds. Let me say that again. Clarity breeds consistency, and consistency compounds. Most people fail because they can't stay consistent. But the reason they can't stay consistent is because they're not clear enough to stay committed. They chase every new idea, every new tactic, every new shiny distraction, and their energy gets divided, their focus gets diluted, their results stay small. But when you're clear, you don't need motivation. You don't need 10 strategies. You don't need constant reminders. You just need to show up and do the work you already know matters. That's how wealth is built. Not in fits of inspiration, but in relentless, clarity-driven repetition. This is where discipline steps in, and not the kind of discipline people pretend to have online. I mean real, unsexy, unshakable discipline, the kind that shows up when the fire's gone out, when no one's watching, when results are slow. You want to know why the successful seem unstoppable? Because they made a decision once and they've been acting on it daily, ever since. They don't renegotiate their mission every Monday. They don't reconsider their purpose when it gets uncomfortable. They don't second guess their clarity every time the world distracts them. They locked it in, and they locked in. Discipline is what turns clarity into results, because it's not enough to know what to do. You must do it without excuses. And this is where most people lose wealth, not in the bank, not in the market, but in their minds. They lose it in the moment they break their own word. They lose it in the hour they skip the work. They lose it in the way they betray their future self for the comfort of now. Discipline is the gatekeeper of wealth. It asks every single day, do you want what you say you want, or do you want what's easy right now? That's the test. And every time you choose clarity and discipline over chaos and comfort, you earn wealth, not just in money, but in power, trust, freedom, and reputation. Because wealth, real wealth, is not just financial, it's foundational. It's built on habits. It's built on principles. It's built on self-respect and internal alignment. If you want outer abundance, you need inner order. If your schedule is chaos, if your thoughts are noise, if your energy is scattered, then don't be surprised if your bank account reflects that same confusion. Clean up your environment. Clean up your commitments. Clean up your calendar. Build systems that make clarity the default, not the exception. Because when your life becomes a reflection of clarity, you become magnetic to wealth. Opportunities trust people who are prepared. Money flows to systems, not wishful thinking. So systemize your habits. Structure your growth. Simplify your goals until they're so clear you can't help but hit them. And then execute relentlessly. Because there is no secret. There is only clarity, structure, and execution repeated until the world can't ignore your results. Now let's talk about this. Value. Because at the core of wealth is one law. You are paid in proportion to the value you bring to the world, and your clarity determines how effectively you can deliver it. Confused people dilute value. They try to be everything to everyone. They offer too much. They sell too wide. They speak too vaguely. But the world pays specialists, not generalists. The clearer you are about the problem you solve, the deeper your wealth becomes. So ask yourself, what is the one problem you solve better than anyone? What pain do you understand at a level others overlook? What skill, what solution, what story do you bring that no one else can replicate? That's your well. Dig it deep. Don't skim the surface. Don't run wide. Go deep, become the best. Because depth is where the money lives. And clarity is how you find the vein. And once you do, double down. Because value is not about more effort, it's about better focus. You can spend a lifetime working hard, or you can spend a few focused years working smart, clear, and strategic, and let that work pay you forever. This is what wealth is. Not hype, not chance, not luck. It's clarity, backed by action, refined through discipline, and multiplied through value. And yes, all of that requires patience. Wealth is never in a rush. It doesn't care about your timeline. It doesn't care how badly you want it next month. It rewards the committed, not the impatient. You plant seeds now, and you earn the harvest later. But only if you water it with clarity every single day. So here's the challenge. If you are not where you want to be, if your results don't match your effort, if your life feels busy but not fruitful, you don't need more hustle, you need more clarity. And if you want that clarity, you must create it. In silence, in stillness, with intention. And once you have it, protect it like your life depends on it, because your wealth absolutely does. Because clarity once earned becomes your edge. It becomes the way you speak, the way you move, the way you decide without hesitation, the way you say no to what doesn't fit, so you can say yes to what builds empires. Clarity saves you from detours. Clarity saves you from the opinions of people who aren't building anything. Clarity keeps your feet on the ground when your mind wants to wander into doubt. And with that edge, you stop looking for shortcuts, because you become the shortcut. People start coming to you for answers. Why? Because in a world drowning in confusion, the clearest mind becomes the leader. You walk into the room and people feel your presence, not because you're louder, but because you're certain. You don't waste energy trying to impress your results. Speak with confidence. And that confidence, it wasn't inherited. It was forged in the fires of doubt you walked through, in the silence you endured, in the clarity you fought for when everything around you screamed, play small. Confidence is not personality. Confidence is clarity plus, evidence plus, alignment. Clarity in your mission, evidence from your action, alignment between what you say and what you live. You want more confidence? Don't fake it. Earn it by getting clear, by showing up, by doing the thing again and again and again until even your fear gets tired of showing up. And now we must talk about one of the most overlooked yet potent accelerators of wealth, alignment. Because confusion doesn't just come from outside noise, it comes from internal conflict. When your values and your actions don't match, confusion breeds. When you say one thing but live another, confusion multiplies. When your words and your work point in different directions, wealth runs away. But when you live in alignment, when your life reflects your deepest priorities, you become unshakable. People trust you. You trust yourself. You don't flinch when adversity comes. You don't stutter when opportunity knocks, because you're not pretending. You're not wearing a mask. You're not building one image online while falling apart in private. You're whole. You're real. You're aligned. And that alignment is rare, which makes it priceless. Because the marketplace isn't just buying your product. It's buying your integrity, your consistency, your character. And the clearer your internal world is, the more powerful your external results become. Alignment means you're not saying yes out of guilt. You're not chasing trends. You're not building for approval. You're building because it aligns with your calling. And when clarity and alignment meet, wealth becomes inevitable. Let's go deeper now. Because all of this, clarity, discipline, alignment, it creates something most never talk about. Peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from escape. Not the peace of a beach or a vacation or a weekend off. The peace of knowing who you are, what you're building, and why. The peace of not having to pretend anymore. The peace of being able to look in the mirror and say, I'm on my path. I'm doing the work. I know where I'm going. That kind of peace, that's wealth. Because there are people with money and fame who can't sleep. They've got houses, but no peace. Followers, but no direction. Noise, but no clarity. Don't chase their highlight reel. Build your truth. And that truth will reward you not just with money, but with meaning. And when money and meaning walk hand in hand, that's when you've won. That's when you stop working for wealth and start living from it. Because you're no longer trying to prove anything. You're just being who you were built to be. And from that space, everything becomes easier. Not because life is easier, but because you've become stronger. Clarity changes your relationship with time. It changes your relationship with effort. It changes your relationship with success, because now success isn't a mountain you're scared to climb. It's a blueprint you're excited to build. And speaking of blueprints, let's get specific. If you want to move from confused to clear, from busy to wealthy, from scattered to scalable, here's the internal architecture you must build. Clarity of identity. Who are you? What do you stand for? What do you never compromise? Clarity of mission. What problem are you solving? Why does it matter? Who does it serve? Clarity of strategy. What's the plan? What are the non-negotiables? What are you ignoring? Clarity of action. What are you doing today? What's on your calendar? Are your actions aligned with your destination? Clarity of energy. What drains you? What fuels you? What needs to be cut? Clarity of people. Who belongs in your circle? Who pulls you forward? Who pulls you back? Clarity of measurement. What are you tracking? What defines progress? What does winning look like? Every empire has a blueprint. So does every life that builds wealth. Don't wake up and wing it. Design it. Build it. Execute it. And don't stop until your clarity becomes visible through results, impact, and legacy. Because wealth isn't just about having more. It's about becoming more focused, more intentional, more aligned, more powerful, more free. And freedom, that's the ultimate dividend of clarity. So rise, clear your mind, sharpen your mission, simplify your path, refuse the noise, refuse the chaos, refuse the narrative that says you're not ready. You are. You just need to get clear and stay clear long enough for the results to catch up to your vision. Because that's how wealth is earned. And the moment you drift from clarity, you invite confusion to steal it. So protect it like a vault. Treat it like treasure. Because it is. Clarity is wealth. And wealth is waiting for the one clear mind bold enough to claim it. And now we arrive at the summit. Not the end, but the elevation. Because clarity, when protected long enough, evolves into something more powerful than strategy, more permanent than motivation, and more magnetic than charisma. It becomes identity. It stops being something you use and becomes something you are. You're no longer a person seeking clarity. You are a clear person. And that changes everything. You walk different. You talk different. You make decisions with a precision most people never touch. You don't waste time trying to be liked. You are focused on being effective. You don't panic in uncertainty because your clarity has turned into calm. You don't jump at every opportunity because you understand that alignment is wealth's gatekeeper. And now, your life, your business, your relationships, your goals, they begin to mirror the internal clarity you've forged. You look back and realize confusion never really had power over you. You were just entertaining too many voices that didn't deserve to be in the room. You were just carrying stories that weren't even yours. You were just too busy trying to be everything instead of becoming the one thing the world needed you to be. But now you've returned to the center. And from that center, you create, you build, you multiply. Because clarity doesn't just guide, it expands. It creates energy. It creates momentum. It creates inevitability. And that's the key inevitability. When you are clear, aligned, and disciplined long enough, wealth becomes inevitable. It's no longer if. It's not even when. It becomes a byproduct of who you are and how you operate. So stop thinking about wealth like a finish line. Start treating it like a shadow, one that follows you wherever clarity leads. You were not born to wander aimlessly. You were not born to dabble. You were not born to echo the voices of others. You were born to walk a clear path. You were born to own your thoughts, to command your habits, to build with meaning, to lead with vision, to create with power. You were born for wealth, not just financial, but spiritual, emotional, relational, foundational. You were born to be rich in the ways that matter and to let those riches overflow into every life you touch. That starts and ends with clarity. So here's your call. Clear the fog. Clear the fake goals. Clear the expectations that were never yours. Clear the fear that was never rooted in truth. Clear the mental clutter, the digital distractions, the unnecessary obligations. Cut them all. Then look inward. Listen to what's been buried. Dig deep and decide. Decide what you will build. Decide what you will stop tolerating. Decide who you will become and what that version of you earns, gives, creates, and leads. Then act with conviction, with courage, with a mind that no longer doubts. Because when the mind is clear, the world bends to its will. And when the world senses someone with clarity of mission, it moves out of the way. Because in the end, wealth is not magic. Wealth is not luck. Wealth is not given. Wealth is built in clarity, with clarity. For those clear enough to receive it, don't wait for clarity to arrive. Create it. Don't ask the world for direction. Lead it. Don't hope for wealth. Become the kind of person who makes it inevitable. This is your time. This is your turning point. This is your moment of mental sovereignty where you stop being pulled and start pulling everything you need toward you. With vision, with clarity, with power. So go now, build with fire, build with focus, build with absolute clarity, and watch as the world confused and noisy and lost starts to orbit around the quiet power of your unstoppable, undeniable, unshakable mind. It doesn't take much to kill a dream. You don't need a tragedy. You don't need betrayal. You don't even need failure. All it takes is an excuse. One quiet, rational, believable excuse. And before you know it, the thing you were born to do, the thing you felt in your bones, the thing that lit your soul on fire, that thing dies. Not with a bang, but with a whisper. Excuses are elegant killers. They come dressed as logic. They speak the language of reason. They wear the face of safety, of timing, of when things calm down. But make no mistake, they are thieves. Thieves of power. Thieves of peace. Thieves of potential. And the most dangerous part, they don't come from the outside. They come from within, from the same mind that created the dream, from the same voice that once said, I was made for more. Because every excuse has one mission, to make you comfortable with being less. Less than you could be. Less than you said you'd be. Less than you were born to be. And they always sound so reasonable. I'm just tired right now. I need more information. Maybe next month. I don't want to risk too much. But here's the truth, burn this into your soul. Failure doesn't destroy dreams. Excuses do. Failure is feedback. Failure is refinement. Failure is the price of becoming. But excuses are permission to remain small. They don't teach you anything. They don't grow you. They don't stretch your limits. They just delay your destiny. And the longer you let them live, the deeper they dig into your identity until you're no longer someone who had a dream. You're someone who used to. So stop worshiping comfort. Stop giving your excuses a seat at the table. They haven't earned it. They haven't paid the price. They haven't shown up at 5 a.m. They haven't bled for the vision. But you have. You have felt the call. You have seen the mountain. You have glimpsed the person you could become. Don't let that version of you starve just because your current self is scared. Because that fear, that's not weakness. That's a signal that you're standing at the edge of growth. And the edge is always uncomfortable. That's why so few cross it. But those who do, they learn the greatest truth of all. The cost of pursuing your dream is nothing compared to the cost of making excuses. Because the pain of discipline lasts a moment. The pain of regret lasts a lifetime. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. But you do have to move. You do have to try. You do have to choose action over avoidance. Because action builds courage. Action silences doubt. Action proves to your mind that you are not a slave. To excuses, you are a leader of your own life. And leaders don't negotiate with mediocrity. Leaders don't delay greatness. Leaders don't wait for a sign, they become the signal. So what will you be? Another excuse in a world full of reasons? Or a force that refuses to let fear dress up as wisdom? The dream is still alive. But it's waiting for you to stop making excuses and start making moves. Because the moment you stop making excuses is the moment everything changes. The moment you silence the voice that says, not today, and replace it with, today is the only day. The moment you stop asking for the perfect condition and become the perfect decision. That is where transformation begins, not when you feel ready, but when you act anyway. Because readiness is not a feeling, it is a consequence. It comes after action, not before, never before. And that's why so many people live their lives preparing for a race they'll never run. They read the books. They watch the videos. They organize the workspace. They buy the gear. They gather information like hoarders of potential. But they never take the first step because deep down, they're waiting for fear to go away. But here's the secret. Fear doesn't leave. It listens. It listens to your patterns. It listens to your movements. And when it sees that your actions are louder than your doubts, it quiets. Not because you destroyed it, but because you outgrew it. Excuses thrive in silence. They breed in hesitation. They grow in the empty space between what you said you'd do and what you actually did. But when that space disappears, when your intention and your execution match, there's no more room for excuses to hide. They suffocate under the weight of your discipline. Because now you're not just dreaming, you're doing. You're no longer a prisoner of perfection. You're no longer negotiating with fear. You're walking into your greatness, step by step, hour by hour, decision by decision. And as you do, something strange begins to happen. The world starts to shift. Doors open. People take notice. Opportunities begin to orbit around your nomina because you're lucky, but because you've become undeniable. And all of it because you made one radical choice: to stop telling yourself stories that sabotage your destiny, to stop letting later rob you of now, to stop living in the shadows of what could have been and step fully into what must be. And that choice, it wasn't easy. It was essential because your excuses were never honest. They were just easier to accept than the pain of responsibility. But you've grown past that now. You've looked your excuses in the eye and said, I'm done with you. I'm done pretending you're protection. I'm done mistaking you for strategy. I choose movement. I choose mission. I choose me. And now the dream that once flickered burns. Because when the fire is real, you don't need permission. You don't wait for the perfect mood, the right lighting, the applause. You move because you must. You show up because anything less feels like betrayal. Not to others, but to yourself. Because once you've seen what you're capable of, truly seen it, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to pretending that excuses are acceptable. You can't go back to numbing your potential with comfort. You can't go back to shrinking your vision just to fit into a routine that was never meant to contain you. Because now you've tasted ownership. You've stood on the edge of your limitations and pushed forward anyway. And that taste, it's addictive. It makes everything else feel hollow. The distractions, the drama, the fake urgency, the mindless scrolling, the meetings with no meaning, the habits that suck your soul dry, they all feel offensive now because they cost you something sacred, time that could have been invested in becoming. So now, instead of excuses, you build evidence. Instead of reasons, you build results. Instead of doubt, you build discipline. And people will notice. They won't always understand. They'll say, you've changed. Yes. Yes, you have. Because staying the same was killing you slowly. Because making excuses was dimming your light. Because every time you chose comfort over conviction, a piece of your fire went cold. And you've had enough. You've buried too many dreams already. You've watched too many, maybe one days turn into never happened. You've heard the stories of people who waited and died with their greatness still locked inside them. That will not be your story. Not because you're fearless, but because you've chosen something greater than fear. Responsibility. You've chosen to look your potential in the eye and say, I will not leave you behind. You've chosen to show up for the vision even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's lonely, because excuses don't survive in that kind of climate. They melt under the heat of consistency. They dissolve in the presence of purpose. And now you carry that presence, not because you were born with it, but because you built it. One decision at a time. One no more at a time. One day where you showed up anyway, just to prove to yourself, I'm done letting excuses run my life. Then let's finish this with the fire it deserves. Because you didn't come this far to stay almost. You didn't walk through pain, through setbacks, through every ounce of self-doubt, just to arrive at the edge and let an excuse talk you down. You came to rise. You came to build. You came to become. And if there's anything standing between you and the life you know is yours, it's not the world, it's not the system, it's not the timing. It's the tiny voice inside that whispers, not today. You're not ready. You're not enough. That voice is the excuse. And it sounds like a suggestion, but it's a sentence. Every time you listen to it, a part of your strength withers. Every time you obey it, a door closes that might never open again. Every time you surrender to it, you trade who you could become for who you were afraid to stop being. But that trade ends today because you finally see it for what it is. Excuses aren't innocent. They're weapons of mass distraction. They don't just delay action. They dismantle identity, but not yours. Not anymore. Because now you walk in clarity. Now you walk in conviction. Now, every step you take is backed by a soul that's decided, I will not die with my dreams still in me. I will not tell my children stories about what I almost did. I will not carry this fire and let it go cold because I was too scared to be uncomfortable. You've buried enough potential in the name of someday. You've delayed enough greatness for a better time. You've made enough excuses dressed in the clothing of logic when deep down you knew they were lies. Lies meant to keep you safe. Lies meant to keep you still. Lies meant to keep you small. But now you've grown too much to pretend. Now, your standards are louder than your fears. Now your habits are stronger than your hesitation. Now, your actions speak so loudly that excuses no longer have a voice in your story. Because this is your story now. Written in courage, paved with discipline, built on days where you wanted to quit but didn't. This is your life. Not the one you hoped for, not the one you explained, but the one you built with no excuses. And that life, it's waiting, not in the distance, but in the next decision. So choose and make it final, because the world doesn't need another reason why you couldn't. It needs a living, breathing example of what happens when someone finally says, enough, no more excuses. I choose to rise. And that someone is you.